They showed up with clipboards and smug grins, telling me I had 30 days to pack up and leave the cabin I'd lived in for decades. What the HOA didn't know was that I owned more than just the cabin. I owned the entire lake and their only parking lot. My name's Henry, though most folks just call me Hank. I'm 62 years old, semi-retired, and I've spent more than half my life here on this quiet lakeside property. My grandfather bought this land in the 1950s, back when it was nothing but pine trees, clear water, and a dirt road leading into the hills. The cabin itself is modest, built with my own hands and a little help from Dad when I was younger. It's got a stone fireplace, a creaky old porch, and the kind of silence you can't buy in the city. This lake isn't just water to me, it's where I caught my first fish, where my kids learned to swim, and where I spread my wife's ashes when she passed. To me, this isn't just land. It's legacy. And that's exactly why the HOA's power games never stood a chance. About 5 years ago, developers built a shiny new subdivision on the far side of the lake. Cookie-cutter houses, pristine lawns, and, of course, an HOA that ruled over every blade of grass. Their president was Linda Prescott, a woman who treated her title like she'd been crowned queen. Linda was the type who carried a clipboard like a sword. Every neighbor called her Madam President behind her back, and she thrived on enforcing rules. House paint shades, mailbox heights, the number of flowers in your yard, nothing escaped her scrutiny. The problem? My cabin wasn't part of their HOA. Never was, never would be. My land predated their subdivision by decades. But that didn't stop Linda from trying to rope me in. She started small, complaints about my dock being unsafe, about my fire pit being a hazard, about the sound of my chainsaw when I chopped wood. Each visit ended with a pointed remark. You know, Hank, your cabin doesn't really fit with the community image we're building here. What she meant was clear. They wanted me gone. One crisp autumn morning, Linda and 2 board members marched right up my driveway. I was sipping coffee on the porch when they handed me a formal-looking envelope. Notice of eviction, it read. I laughed out loud. You've got to be kidding me. But they weren't. The letter claimed I was violating community standards by maintaining a non-compliant structure on HOA-controlled land. They gave me 30 days to vacate or face legal action. I looked Linda dead in the eye and said, "This isn't HOA land. This is my land." She smirked like she'd already won. Our lawyers disagree. See you in court. Word spread fast. Neighbors I'd known for years suddenly treated me like an outsider. Rumors swirled. I was a squatter. I hadn't paid taxes. My cabin was illegal. The HOA machine was running full speed, and I was in its sights. But while they saw an old man with a cabin, I saw something they didn't: leverage. Because unlike them, I knew exactly what the property lines said, and what was written in the deeds my grandfather left me. And let's just say, the HOA had picked a fight they couldn't win. The weeks that followed were pure harassment. HOA inspectors parked outside my property, taking photos. I started receiving fines in the mail, hundreds of dollars for things like unauthorized shoreline activity and unapproved building materials. They even accused me of polluting the lake, which was laughable considering I'd spent decades keeping it clean. Neighbors I once waved to stopped making eye contact. Some whispered about how my cabin was going to be bulldozed for community improvements. Others openly asked if I'd sell before things got ugly. Then came the intimidation: trash thrown on my property, tire tracks across my lawn, even a dead fish nailed to my door with a note, "Time's up." I'll admit, part of me was angry, but another part? I was patient. Because I knew something they didn't. They thought they were the only ones with power. But the truth was, the lake they loved so much, the one they built their houses around, that lake was mine. And so was their only parking lot. You see, when my grandfather bought this land in the 50s, he didn't just buy the cabin plot. He bought the entire lake, all 80 acres of water, shoreline, and surrounding easements. Over the years, I paid the taxes, renewed the deeds, and never once sold an inch. And the kicker? The only road leading to the HOA subdivision ended in a parking lot. Guess who owned that lot? Me. The HOA had been using it for years without even realizing it. Every carpool, every party, every holiday gathering. They all depended on that parking lot. I pulled the deed from my safe, dusted it off, and smiled. They thought they could evict me? No, I held the keys to their entire community. So when Linda doubled down with threats of legal action, I decided it was time to show her exactly who she was messing with. The HOA scheduled a community meeting at their clubhouse, planning to rally support for my eviction. They invited the whole neighborhood, plus local officials, confident this would be my downfall. I walked in carrying a thick folder of documents, wearing my oldest flannel and boots. Linda stood at the front like a queen addressing her court. "Mr. Hank here refuses to comply with community rules," she announced. "We're voting tonight to move forward with his removal." Murmurs filled the room. Some nodded. Others looked uneasy. That's when I stepped forward. "Linda, before you get too far, you might want to see these." I laid out copies of the lake deed, the parking lot ownership papers, and maps signed by the county clerk. The room went silent. "This cabin sits on my land. Always has. And by the way, every drop of that lake your houses face? That's mine too. Oh, and that parking lot you all use? Also mine. Which means, legally speaking, I could fence it off tomorrow and leave you all landlocked." Gasps. Whispers. A few chuckles. Linda's face turned red as she sputtered. That's not possible." The county clerk, who had come along out of curiosity, simply nodded. "It's all valid." Linda's empire collapsed right there, in front of everyone. After that night, the eviction talk vanished. The HOA board members resigned in embarrassment, leaving Linda to face the fury of her neighbors. Without access to the parking lot or rights to the lake, their community plans crumbled. People who had turned against me now came knocking on my door, apologizing, asking if they could still fish or host events by the water. I allowed it, but on my terms. Respectful, written agreements. Linda? She lost her title as HOA president within a month. Word spread fast, and she became the neighborhood pariah. She moved out less than a year later. As for me, I kept living peacefully in my cabin, watching the sun set over my lake, knowing I'd defended my family's legacy. That fight taught me something important. Power doesn't always come from loud voices, fines, or titles. Sometimes, real power is quiet, sitting in the deeds and documents people overlook. The HOA thought they could bully me into submission, but they forgot one simple truth. You can't evict a man from land he owns. So, what would you do if an HOA tried to push you out of your own home? Let me know in the comments, hit that like button if you enjoyed the story, and don't forget to subscribe for more wild HOA showdowns.